We're going to study a very interesting sutta, ST 45.14, Arahata Achelaka Kassapa Sutta, or you can also say Achela Kassapa Sutta. Now you notice Arahata is in brackets, prefix in front, so that means this sutta is about the attainment of Arahathood of this person, Achelaka Kassapa. The translation is the discourse on naked ascetic Kassapa on his Arahathood, S41.9. And the theme here is the Chitta, the householder, as a non-returner, and the naked ascetic Kassapa as an Arahat. So we have a story of two people, and this is very instructive. It kinds of reflects on our modern situation too, on the practice of religion in general.
On the board, should be S instead of A.
Oh, S, no? Okay. Right, so this is a sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya. The Samyutta often talks a lot about meditation and various teachings in connection with meditation. Okay, let's look at the translation on page 128. The discourse on the naked ascetic Kassapa. Now, first of all, a bit about naked ascetics. They are found in the Buddha's time, 2,600 years ago, even before that. They're also found today. Of course, they are ascetics. They're the kind of holy men. The idea is renunciation means giving up everything. So this group are quite extreme. They feel that they should give up everything, including their clothes, because you have clothes, your pockets, you can keep money and so on. And they will rub their whole body with ash. So they kind of look quite kind of grayish color, including their faces. And being ascetics, they don't wash their hair either. So they kind of keep everything intact, so to speak. And of course, they're very decent people. They don't go around in public. They kind of stay in remote areas. So you still see them today in India. Even among the Jains, you find that there are two groups. One who wear a white loincloth, and the other one, they're called the sky-clad. The sky-clad. They wear the sky, in other words, they wear nothing. So you have the Jains, you have two of these groups. So here we have these two friends. Kassapa actually is a family name, very common family name, like Tan or Lim. And then the other is the very famous lay practitioner, Chitta, the house lord. So these two, they became good friends, and then 30 years later, one generation later, they meet again. And by that time, you can say this Achela Kassapa was already 30 years a naked ascetic, and then Chitta was 30 years a practicing Buddhist. So let's see what happens, what transpired between these two people when they meet. So this is a very interesting record of spiritual realization, spiritual discipleship, and spiritual friendship. Well, look, this sutta starts with number 2. So in other words, 1 is introduction, Ewang Me Sutang, and so on. And normally we can look this up at the start of the chapter. So if you look at S41, you will see some kind of introduction there. On the other hand, certain traditions, right? For example, the Myanmar tradition or the Sinhalese tradition or Thai tradition, they may give you the introduction too. But normally, if you don't see this kind of introduction, it's very likely this sutta was spoken by the Buddha or recorded at Savatthi. All right, let's start. At that time, the naked ascetic Kassapa had arrived in Machika Sanda. So this is the name of a place, but we're not told exactly when. Here again, the suttas normally do not give us an exact date, because the idea is that the Dhamma is timeless or time-free, akalika. Or akalika means time-free, nothing to do with time. And the Dhamma is also said to be sanantana, meaning eternal, beyond time. So we have this word "at that time." So in other words, it refers to right now, as when we read the sutta, this event is occurring, so to speak. So the idea is, it's not a historical lesson, it's more of a lesson in the Dhamma, in our own practice and realization. Sometimes, of course, especially in the later suttas, you find we are given a lot of historical references. For example, in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, more or less we are told when and where, okay, but normally not. So here, this naked ascetic Kassapa was in a place called Majjhika Sanda. Sanda means a forest, so it is a forested area. He was, when he was still a layman, an old companion of the house lord Chitta. The house lord Chitta heard thus. It's said that the naked ascetic Kassapa has arrived in Majjhika Sanda. He is, even when he was still a layman, an old friend of mine. Right, so we have this news coming to Chitta. He has, after 30 years, he's meeting this old friend is in town. Chitta, the house lord, then approached the naked ascetic Kassapa and exchanged greetings with him. And when this courteous and friendly exchange was concluded, Chitta, the house lord, sat down at one side. So you see this as a kind of quite normal, friendly gathering. They always say hello to each other, some pleasantries, just some brief ones. Of course, in some cases, the pleasantry can be long enough. Like, for example, when the Buddha meets those monks who are in retreat in remote areas, you ask them quite a few questions before actually starting to teach. First, of course, the usual procedure is when they know the Buddha is coming, they will go out to receive the Buddha in the distance, and then carry his bowl for him, and then walk him to the residence, to the vihara in the forest, and then get water to wash his feet, wash his hands, and water to drink. Right? So this offering of water is very symbolic, even in ancient times. And then they will offer him a seat, make sure it's comfortable, and then then the Buddha will ask them, okay, how are you getting along? Are you in good health? Do you get enough alms food? I mean, the monks can't talk much about anything else, so that's the usual thing. And then the Buddha will ask, in the case of Anuruddha, Bhagu and Kimbila, the Buddha will ask, how are your practices? How are you getting along with your practice? Right? So, and that becomes the starting point of the sutta. So here, we see this friendly opening chat. Sitting thus at one side, Chitta, the house lord, said this to the naked ascetic. How long, Bhante, have you gone forth? Right? So here, notice, Chitta addresses his friend, the naked ascetic, as Bhante. So it just simply means, it's a respectful term a layperson would use for a holy man, for a monk, for even a naked ascetic. Then Kassapa replies, I've gone forth some 30 years, house lord. And then, again, you notice here, you got to know who is talking, right? The narrator. So in section 5, we have Chitta talking again. During those 30 years, Bhante, so when you look at the word Bhante, you also know, okay, who's talking, okay? So these are markers, right? So during those 30 years, Bhante, have you attained dwelling in comfort, any superhuman tantamount to the distinctive knowledge and vision of the noble ones? Okay, this is a question only a Buddhist would ask. First of all, the word distinctive knowledge, or sometimes translated as distinction, visesa. This refers to attainment of sainthood, one of the 4 stages. Of course, vision means attainment of also kind of liberation of the noble one. So here the citta is clearly referring to the Buddhist context actually, although he's talking to his friend Kassapa. We see this citta as one of those ideal Buddhists, because by now he's already a non-returner. He started off as Trimuna, and I listened to one of the chief disciples. He became a non-returner, and then a once-returner, and then became a non-returner. So imagine, he's an amazing follower. Although he's a lay person, there are not many non-returners amongst the lay people, even in the Buddha's time. Of course, the other famous lay non-returner is Gatikara, the potter, right? So here we have this businessman, this rich businessman, Citta, becoming a non-returner. So of course, once a non-returner, you'll find his lifestyle would change quite dramatically. He would be almost like a monk, if you like. And Citta, if you were to picture Citta, you should see him as a very happy, almost jovial kind of Buddhist, because he has a very subtle sense of humor, and sometimes not so subtle, especially when it comes to teaching. He loves going to other camps, so to speak, for example, to the Jain camp, and then letting the Jain teachers ask him anything, any question, and he will give them just enough answer. And then normally the answer is correct, but for example, Citta visits the Jains, and the Jains are very happy to see a Buddhist disciple coming along, and they say, wow, look, we have this Buddhist coming to us. Obviously, he's interested in our teachings. So then the Jain teacher asks Citta something like, is it through faith that you have, whatever you have attained, in this case meditation, have you attained it through faith in the Buddha? And then Citta answers, no, it's not through faith. And he doesn't speak much, he just says that. So he just says enough, whether intentionally or being respectful is hard to say. But he has a very humorous effect as a result of this. So if you study literature, you can see this development as something very interesting. So he says, no. And then this Jain leader, Mahavira, thinks that, he concludes, he jumps to the conclusion and says, he tells his congregation, you see, this great disciple of the Buddha, he doesn't have faith in his own teacher. All right? So this was his conclusion. And what makes it even more interesting is, Citta is not too excited about it. He doesn't correct Mahavira right away. He just kind of keeps quiet. Again, we're not sure intentionally or out of respect. And then after that, after Mahavira stopped speaking, then only he would say, all right, yes, I've attained all these 4 jhanas, but what I meant is I meditated on my own, and then I attained them on my own efforts. But after attaining all these deep jhanas, then my faith in the Buddha arises. So in other words, it is an informed faith. And that causes some embarrassment, of course, because Mahavira just said that he has no faith in the Buddha. So after that, well, he doesn't know what to say. So the Jain leader doesn't know what to say. So we have kind of this Citta, the house lot, full of faith in the Buddha and the Dhamma, kind of giving the lion roar occasionally in that way. So, but here he's meeting an old friend, right? The first question he asks, first Dharma question he asks Kassapa is, okay, you've renounced, you've left home for 30 years, you're a naked ascetic for 30 years. Have you attained any level? Are you at least a stream winner, for example, any kind of level? Okay, so his friend is quite open, quite honest. Kassapa is quite honest. So Kassapa says, during those 30 years, House Lord, I've not attained dwelling in comfort, any superhuman state, tantamount to the distinctive knowledge and vision of the Noble Ones, except for nakedness and a shaven head and hair plucking. Okay, so I just go through the rituals, Now notice here, the word superhuman state is mentioned. Superhuman state here can refer to jhanas and what jhana bring, the higher knowledges and so on. So it says, and then you have this phrase called living in comfort. Living in comfort means doing meditation and being happy that way. So what is meant here is, despite Kassapa's practice for 30 years, that is kind of one generation's time, he has not gained anything. And that speaks for itself, if you like, right? And of course, the next thing is, you have a role reversal. We have Kassapa asking Chitta, what about you? Okay, so now that's the part, section 6. When this was said, the House Lord Chitta said this to the recluse, to the naked ascetic rather. Well, you can also call him recluse in a sense, but I think it should be naked ascetic, Kassapa. Strange indeed, sir. I wonder indeed, sir, that the Dharma is so well taught. All right, this is his kind of exaltation in faith. He says, well, the Dharma is well taught. He says, we should be learning the Buddha's Dharma, So just to think that after 30 years, there is no attaining, dwelling in comfort, any superhuman state, tantamount to the distinction of knowledge and vision of the Noble Ones, except for nakedness and a shaven head and hair plucking. So, I mean, they're good friends, so you find Chitta kind of speaking his mind, if you like. He says, wow, 30 years, have you not attained anything? That's amazing. The Dharma is really well taught, So it's already kind of like hinting to Kassapa and saying, it's different with the Buddha's teaching. Okay, then this time Kassapa asks, but House Lord, how about you? How long have you taken up lay discipleship? And then also here, Chitta replies, Bhante, it has been 30 years too for me of taking up lay discipleship. So they turn to religion at the same time, so to speak. And then Kassapa asks, during those 30 years, House Lord, have you attained dwelling in comfort, any superhuman state, tantamount to the distinctive knowledge and vision of the Noble Ones? All right, so he asks the same question to Chitta, and Chitta replies, how should I not, Bhante? So you can see here he replies very enthusiastically. He says, why not? Okay. So even as a House Lord, Bhante, right? So even though I am a layperson, yes, I've attained certain levels. Okay, so now first Chitta talks about his attainment of dhyana. All the 4 jhanas are laid out in full. For example, he says, for Bhante, to whatever extent I wish. In other words, he can sit as long as he likes, or wherever he likes. Quite secluded from sense desires, secluded from unwholesome mental states, enter and dwell in the first jhana, accompanied by initial application and sustained application, accompanied by zest and happiness, born of seclusion. Right? So there you are. So it says, I'm able to attain first jhana, and it goes on, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, all laid out in full. All right, so then he goes on, 8.3. If I, Bhante, were to pass away before the Blessed One, it would not be surprising that he would say this of me: there is no fetter by which Chitta, the house lord, is fettered that would bring him back to this world. Okay? That would bring him back to this world. So here you have a hint that Chitta is a non-returner, right? Because he won't return to this world. So this is how we read the suttas, and we see cues, we see certain what I call stock phrases, and then we know the level of attainment of that disciple. All right, so now we have established these facts. Achila Kassapa, 30 years a wanderer, naked ascetic, has attained nothing. Whereas in the case of Chitta, after 30 years, he has attained the first 3 stages of sainthood, has become a non-returner. All right, section 9. When this was said, the naked ascetic said this to Chitta, the house lord. Strange indeed, a wonder indeed, sir, that the Dharma is so well taught. Right? So now he echoes what Chitta says, so he too is kind of like moved by his friend's attainment. Now, of course, here we may think, Chitta is the greater guy, he's a better person, but not so Kassapa. But I think we should see Kassapa here as also showing true interest in spiritual development. He's quite open and honest with himself. He doesn't show any acrimony, any jealousy. In fact, he shows enthusiasm. He says, wow, you are practicing, you found this system which works for you. And that's wonderful. You see this kind of interaction very often in the Buddha's time, in the suttas, where people are looking for the truth, and when they discover a good teacher, they're very happy, they will inform their friends about it. So here, Kassapa continues and says, just to think that after 30 years, you have attained dwelling in comfort, a superhuman state, and so on. So you have attained this level of awakening. And then he makes this very important request, 9.2. May I, House Lord, receive going forth in this Dhamma Vinaya? May I receive the ordination? Right? So he decides to give up his naked ascetic state to become a Buddhist monk. So he requests, now this is very interesting, he is the wandering ascetic, he is the holy man. He requests from the lay person, his friend, to be a monk. Okay. Of course, he's not asking Chitta to ordain him, but he's kind of like saying, "Look, I think I want to be a monk." Right. So here again, we see a lay person witnessing this wonderful event. The naked ascetic says he wants to be a monk, and here he tells his friend, right? Now, remember there was another sutta where, probably the previous one, isn't it? One or two, where you find this person saying, okay, be my witness. Apingya says, I want to be a Buddhist. He says, Namo Tassa. So, and who's the witness? Karanapali. So you find a layman witnesses another layman taking refuge. So this is a kind of public declaration of faith. So in a sense, you can say this is Kassapa's declaration of faith in the Buddha. And who better to be the witness than his old friend of 30 years, Chitta, the house lord. Moreover, Chitta is a non-returner. So in other words, he also is a member of the noble Sangha, although he's not a monk. But he's a non-returner. So he is a worthy individual to declare your faith to. And then,
Sorry, Piya.
yes?
The other way around.
Which one?
Just now that one, the Karana, Pali,
Oh, okay.
or refuge.
Karana Pali goes to refuge, and Pingaya is the witness. Okay. Yes. All right, so coming back to the sutta, section 10. Then the house lord Chitta took the naked ascetic Kassapa to the elder monks, and so he is the introducer or the guarantor, if you like. So he comes along and he presents this candidate to the elder monks. We're not told who. So then, on behalf of Kassapa, he makes a request, may the elder ordain this monk. I will gladly provide him requisites of robe, bowl, lodging, and medicine and support for the sick. All right? So there you are. Here we have a sponsor. Okay? So even today you find someone becomes a monk, there will be a lay sponsor to give these 4 requisites. And then he's ready. However, here we're not told that, or whether Achela Kassapa has to go through probation because he's what they call a non-Buddhist. One reason for this, because he's ordained, and the next thing is already the statement that he is an arahat. There's no mention of him needing to go for 4 months probation. The reason I think is because he's recommended by this great saint, lay saint called Chitta, the house lord. So on his word, it shows that this person is serious. Okay. Again, we're not told what level Kassapa has attained, whether it's streaming or not, but we are given the impression that he's ready to be a monk. He's so enthusiastic about it, and that's quite enough. Then the sutta concludes and say, then the Venerable Kassapa received the going forth in this Dhamma Vinaya. He received the ordination. Right, so once you see this kind of formula, we can surmise, we can conclude that this is probably quite late in the Buddha's time, maybe in the second period, definitely not in the first 10 years, probably the second half of the Buddha's ministry, sometime during the last 25 years. Oh, there is a very important clue here in the sutta itself that we can know during which year of the ministry that Kassapa is ordained. Do you know what that clue is? It's quite simple, really. They both have been friends for 30 years, remember? That's the clue. So Kassapa was a wandering naked ascetic for 30 years, and then Chitta also has been a lay follower for 30 years, and is now a non-returner. So imagine 30 years. So that's during the second period, right? Because the Buddha taught for 45 years. So here we have quite a good timeline or point in time. Probably we got to give a few more years, because we do not know exactly which year. I can't remember which years Chitta actually became a streamer or became a Buddhist. Whether it's within the first 5 years, it's probably not the first year, but maybe within the first 5 years, we're not sure. But I think probably within the first 10 years of the Buddha's ministry. Yeah? So this is a very interesting fix. We know that the timing, more or less, during the second period. And the ordination method also is that of the second period. All right, so he is presented to the monks, and he becomes a monk, and not long after his ordination, dwelling alone, aloof, diligent, exertive, and resolute, attained and dwelt in the supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which sons of family rightly go forth from the household life into homelessness. He directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived. Done is what to be done. Done what is to be done. There is no more of this state of being. And the Venerable Kassapa became one of the Arahats. Now, this last line 12 is very important because it's not just there, for cosmetic embellishment. You find in the sutta which talks about Sariputta, the Ananda's practice in volume 52, I think, you find there is this Arahat formula right up to just before section 12 here. Sorry? 51, is it? Anyway, so we have there a document which records the Buddha's last instructions to Ananda for Ananda's practice leading to his arahathood. So although the sutta describes that the attainment of arahathood, it doesn't conclude with the line, and the Venerable Ananda became one of the arahats. In other words, he did not become an arahat at that time. So my conclusion was that the teaching was given to Ananda by the Buddha during the last days of the Buddha. But Ananda, of course, couldn't go into retreat. The Buddha was passing away. Ananda was there. Then after the Buddha has passed away, Ananda goes into retreat and becomes an arahat. But the sutta does not record that. So this last line shows a kind of completion of the whole process from ordination to practice to attaining arahathood. And so with that, the sutta ends. You see a happy ending here. Two good friends, one an ascetic, the other is a Buddhist practitioner who's attained, a layman who's attained non-return or non-returning. And ends the sutta here. Okay, so any questions? Yeah, it's not a very long sutta, it's quite easy, this one.
This Kashyapa is a very common name.
Sorry?
Kashyapa is a very common name in the Buddha's time.
What?
A very common name.
Common, it's a family name. Kaccapa, Kassapa, it means tortoise. Tortoise, yeah. So even today, I think this name is quite is found. I noticed the modern Indians, they don't usually mention this clan name anymore. But I was not surprised because in my line of teaching, I have the opportunity of meeting at least two Bharadwajas. Bharadwaja is a very famous family name. So there's a Brahmin clan. So and I asked them and they said, yes, the clan's Bharadwaja. So I feel very fortunate to be able to meet them. Because to me, it's like this family. Wow, go back right to the Buddha's time. So, and Vasistha is another one. And of course, Kaccapa or Kassapa, Kashyapa in Sanskrit. There are variants of the name. So, yes, it's quite a common name. We have many Kassapas. In fact, there are at least 4 Kassapas who are naked ascetics. So apparently this is number 4. All right, so you can look in the list of all the other Kassapas are in SD 18.5, in section 1.2, you can see the list of the Kassapas. Of course, it's very difficult to be 100% sure which one, but in terms of narrative, we more or less can know this is one of the Kassapas, and that's good enough in terms of stories. Now, what is interesting here is you see the Buddha's presence is invisible. We know it's during the Buddha was still alive, because Chitta quotes the Buddha. He says, well, the Buddha the Buddha is still alive, and if he were to pass away, the Buddha would say that he would not return to earth, to this world, so to speak. So the Buddha is still around. And you see two laymen talking to each other, right? In a manner of speaking, a wandering ascetic. In Buddhist term, he's still a layman. He's talking to Chitta, who is more spiritually developed kind of disciple. He is a non-returner, and this inspires Kassapa to ordain, to leave home. So this is a time we see when the monkhood is a very highly respected practice, and at the same time, a lay person like Chitta, who is living in the world, is able to attain very high levels, up to non-return even. So do remember this, that Chitta, when he meets Kassapa, he is a non-returner. So you in the suttas you find there are accounts of Chitta becoming a streamer, once returner, and then a non-returner. Any other statement or questions? In our next lesson, we'll look at another layperson, Ugga of Hatigama, who is also very famous. And there are two of them by his name. We look at it's a long sutta, so we'll leave that to another time. He has 8 qualities, which are very interesting. Whereas here we see Chitta and Kassapa, 2 old friends. We're still a few 4 minutes more. You can go on, anything to ask. There are some notes here which talk about the attainments of sainthood of Chitta. He becomes a stream winner after listening to a Dhamma teaching by Mahanama, the elder Mahanama, probably one of the 5 monks, I think. And then when he was listening to Sariputta, only a short teaching, he becomes a once returner. It's not too difficult to switch from stream winner to a once returner. And then again, after listening to Sariputta, perhaps a more detailed teaching, he becomes a non-returner. What does that mean? I mean, as a non-returner, in other words, he has totally overcome sensual desires. So although he's a layperson, he probably will have nothing to do with his family, he will have nothing to do with money. I mean, he would live a simple life. Yeah, he probably would still live with the family, but basically he's like a holy man in the house, so to speak. So you find he is almost like an arahat, if you like. Apparently, in the suttas, you see mostly lay people attaining at the most is non-returner. Layman arahats are very rare. There are no stories of lay arahats in full length like this sutta here, because it's very difficult for a layman to really attain such a high level. you don't have that support system for this kind of a person. The sangha, the monastic sangha, is able to do that. So it's important that such a person becomes a monk, follow the Vinaya, goes for alms, collects food, and supports himself, and continue living in that way. Right? So here also we are reminded of the noble spirit of the monastic system of early Buddhism, which should remind us today how we should live as monks and nuns too, to inspire us to really be diligent in our practice. Okay, so if there's no questions, we'll end here then. Yeah? Okay, let us just close with a short reflection. As we listen to the inspiring lives of these great disciples of the past, even when they are lay people, we should be able to connect with them and understand that even though we may not be renunciants, monks or nuns, we are still able to attain very high levels of attainment, to be saints, even in this life itself. And in doing so, we greatly benefit others around us too, to show that the Buddha's teaching is still efficacious, is still effective today. Reflecting this way is very good karma. By the power of such karma, let us cultivate loving kindness to ourselves, that we be well and happy, and be blessed with the courage and wisdom to attain at least, to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life. And also by the same token, by the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to all our loved ones, that they may be well and happy. And to those who are practicing the Dhamma, may they attain awakening or one of those stages of sainthood in this life itself. And also those who are struggling, who are lost, who are seeking the truth, may they find the right way to realize the Buddha Dhamma in this life itself too. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.